The Town of Malabar regular town council meeting, Monday, August 6, 2018 at 7:30 shall commence. Please stand for our prayer and pledge.
As we bow our heads to pray, may each of us thank our Creator for the privilege of living in and serving our community. We ask for wisdom and guidance in any and all decisions. We also ask for protection for those of our military and armed forces. We pray for their safe return and give strength to their loved ones. These we say in thy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council Chair Mayor Patrick T. Riley.
Here.
Vice Chair Steve Ribbit.
Here.
Council members Grant Ball.
Here.
Laura Mahoney.
Here.
Dick Horn.
Here.
Danny White.
Here.
Town Administrator Douglas Hoyt.
Here.
Town Attorney Carl Bone.
Here.
I'm the Town Clerk Treasurer Debbie Franklin.
All right, any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda? Thank you. Move on to the approval of the regular town council meeting minutes of July 16, 2018.
I'll move to approve those minutes. I'll second it.
Any changes or additions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried 5-0. I'll entertain a motion for the special audit report meeting minutes of July 23rd, 2018.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Okay, we'll move on to the proclamation. This is naming the playground at Malabar Community Park after the Huggins family. Proclamation, the Town of Malabar. Whereas the Town of Malabar was established on December 1st, 1962, and whereas one of the founding families of Malabar was the Huggins family, with Charles Blair Huggins, married to Bertha Louise Huggins, moving to Malabar around 1913. The Huggins family bought the general store, which was originally on the north side of Malabar Road. After it was destroyed by fire, they bought the building across the street, which housed the general store and the post office. Bertha took over running the store after Blair's death in 1937. And whereas in 1941, their son Robert Clarence Huggins and his wife Barbara Huggins took over the general store and the post office. Clarence was postmaster from 1941 until his retirement in 1989. And whereas many longtime residents of Malabar have fond memories of frequenting the general store and post office. And whereas Brevard County donated 2.5 acres and private property owners donated an additional 1.5 acres on Johnson Avenue for the original Johnson Park site, the Huggins Park site. It was named Huggins Park in honor of the family. And whereas a new children's playground was opened at the Malabar Community Park and is enjoyed by many children every day. And now therefore, the mayor and council of the town of Malabar, Florida, do hereby proclaim that the playground on Malabar Community Park be named the Huggins Family Children's Park. Passed and duly adopted in regular session on the 6th day of August 2018.
I move approval of this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone here from the Huggins family?
Be it known that one of the deputies is regularly patrolling out here. Is
I can't hear you.
Robert. One of the sheriff's deputies that regularly patrols here is the grandson of Robert Huggins. That'd be Billy Hammer.
All right, we'll move on to the attorney's report.
No report tonight.
Move on to the sheriff's report. Sheriff. Move on to boards and committees. The Trail and Greenways Committee, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll be very brief tonight. Drew Thompson from the Trails and Greenways Committee, Town of Malabar. I'm just going to talk to you about two things tonight, very briefly. One is the thing that occurred this past Thursday, which was August 2nd. We had FDEP OGT here, and a couple members of the council were involved during the day. We had a great turnout. We had a couple folks from even the ILS program locally. And we really, I think we lucked out. It had been raining pretty much every day, and we were worried that we were going to get drowned or have to hand out life jackets while we're on land. But what it worked out to be is that we pretty much presented kind of an extensive, kind of like, here's Malabar, here's where we're at, here's where we want to go, here's where we want to go, kind of the afternoon. So we segued from a northern perspective of Town of Malabar in the morning, pretty much showed these folks where they'd be going out in the field and getting a chance to do some things, and then we went and did it. Brought them back, showed them again where they'd been, kind of gave them some different perspectives and introduced them somewhat to the southern part of Malabar, meaning more of the Jordan Scrub Sanctuary. Kind of mentioned some plans we have down there. Kind of gave them the scope of what the magnitude of that area is with regard to geographic contiguous property. It's huge. We had several, I think we had 5 drone videos during the presentation. They were brief, but they kind of resonated with how big Malabar is and how much area we actually have. We're roughly 20% as park or government-owned property. You all are very familiar with that. I won't bore you with that, but I guess the thing that I thought was great, we even got out on Turkey Creek. We got out that those folks enjoyed being out by the water, so we found some water for them. But barely across our line is a Turkey Creek non-motorized boat launch, and they enjoyed that. Got to see some of the trails from the creek. We even had some manatees greet us and kind of were rolling around, and basically they had a good time. The point was, we came back after a bike ride prior to that, came back, drove a little bit to the south, kind of showed them then and here where we wanted to go in the future. And from what we could tell, we kind of passed through the next stage, meaning we pulled off Thursday good enough to be invited to a September 14th, I think it's called a council meeting of the OGTs, doing a special meeting in Titusville, and we're going to be attending that, have approximately a 10 or 15 minute opportunity to kind of close the deal as I see it, basically present once again a more pithy version of what we showed. I think their suggestion was emphasize connectivity. So that's kind of number one thing. I'll segue from there into what I'd like to request the TC consider for future agenda, preferably the next one. And that is that our committee is ready to present a conceptual, essentially trailhead plan, conceptual design plan, which is based on a concept of minimal investment at this time, but just get it going. And no finalization date. We're not putting our volunteers up against the wall, but at the same point, we figured within the first 4 steps of what you'll see a multi-step plan, we'll be able to achieve functionality to some degree, which should be pretty quick. So we're depending on local ingenuity and some things like that, but we have essentially a plan that we will show you that will be staged. In essence, as each step progresses, you're going to see more development of that site. So it's carefully thought out by the committee. And we'd like to get on your agenda for that, because we'd really like to get into this during this fiscal year for obvious access to some funding that we already have allocated in this budget for 2018. So we don't mean to push you up against a corner, but at the same point, we think we're ready. We thoroughly looked at this. We're trying to push for a meeting tomorrow night so we can be a little more prepared for this. But that's kind of it. Moving fast on the trail town concept. Hopefully we'll win on that ultimately. And looking forward to basically presenting on this new trailhead. We think you're going to like it. We think it's thoroughly thought out, and it's a very low dollar impact to the town. So you kind of generally like those ideas. And it connects with our connectivity concept. So we're also trying to see if we can have some more meetings discussing this project pending your outcome from review of it, and then also talking to town of Grand Alcaria and the city of Palm Bay. Those are kind of my things, sir. Any questions, sir? Mr. Porter?
I believe that what you're describing from last Thursday on is part of our application for the trail town designation. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's a statewide designation? Or
It is. And I think you may not be aware, I think you were out when this was mentioned, but at a BPTAC meeting,
Whatever that is.
it's the Bicycle Pedestrian and Trails Accountability Advisory Committee
Okay.
of the Space Coast TPO, Transportation Planning Organization. But now that you know all that, what it means is basically the idea is that we're all trying to, there's a county plan, as you know these guys. There's a county plan to basically make sure that towns that are working together, again, that connectivity thing, that when we build something, it's going to connect to somebody else. Because a trail going to nowhere doesn't please anybody other than the person who's walking it that day. You gotta have a destination. And as you can see, those folks that were involved in this can see that our game plan is destinations. It is connectivity. We want to show there's something at the other end of the trail to get there, either by horseback, hiking, or biking. So the idea of being a trail town fits in with the rural residential nature of what the preamble and such for this town is all involved with. And I think that there could not be a better fit for a town than for us to achieve that. Because I think what it's going to do is bring in ecotourism, which is the one thing we'd like to see. It's not going to disturb our way of life. It would actually enhance it, we think, because it's going to help bring more support for environmental. Again, property values, it's a proven fact that where there are sophisticated trail systems, the property values go up. The animals get to live there without being kind of overtaken, so it's a good thing.
Thank you.
That's where we're at. Thanks.
Yeah, I just like to add a comment. I saw the I was here for the presentation on Thursday. Extremely professional, extremely well done. The whole day was organized very well. You know, the drone footage,
Yeah,
you know,
you
that
can't
was,
beat
that was
that.
really, really impressive. So, you know, Drew and the rest of the folks, you know, on the committees did a heck of a job. I think the folks we were presenting to, you know, left impressed.
We appreciate that. We've worked hard on it. We have a lot more hard work to do. But yeah, that's the key to this town. We're blessed that it is by no means just me. This team of folks truly knows this area and knows how to get things done without a lot of money and red tape. And while we can take advantage of that as a town, I think we need to crank while this is available. So I encourage you. I hope that we make it to your next agenda. It will be a brief presentation. You're going to see basically consecutive slides where things are happening. But we're going to do some of those things only when we get the money. But the initial things that happen are going to be what give us functionality to get us, make it worthwhile at this time. Okay, thanks.
The Parks and Rec Board. Planning and zoning.
Liz Ritter, Planning and Zoning. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've been continually working on the signs. We're going through it slowly because we have what was before, after, inserted, so we are going through everything, meshing it together. But we are making some progress on that. You're all welcome to come to our meeting Wednesday. I have to submit that Bud Ryan has resigned for family reasons and other purposes. I'd like to submit for your approval Mary Hoffmeister to become a regular board member. Alternate Alan is okay with that. He can't make as many meetings as Mary, so I put that up for your pleasure to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, we're keep working on the sign ordinance. If there's anything else you'd like us to look at, just let us know.
We're good.
Okay, we'll move on to staff reports. Tom?
Oh, I didn't hear you, sorry. Good evening. Last month, we did 15 roads were graded, the ball fields and parks were always done. We started to work on Smith Lane doing the ditches. We're about halfway done so far. We finished the storage bins in the public works yard. We're cleaning out the Marie Street yard because it's been filled up for the last 15 years. And last month, pretty much every afternoon we've been rained out, so we didn't get too much done this month. That's about it.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a question if I could.
Sure.
I think school starts this Friday, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And I live on Ash Road, just off Corey, and I pretty much take care of that bus stop there myself. But it'd probably be a good idea to hit the other ones before the kids have to park their bikes, or I don't know how well they're used. I don't know how many children we have in our community, but I know there are several that use the bus stop there at Ash, right off of Corey.
Right.
And we try to keep that clean. The one over there on Hall and Corey, and it's got weeds over the seats.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't imagine some kids safely
Right.
using that bus stop. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They'll
that,
all around the benches.
Yeah.
but see, that's when we stopped cutting the right of ways, so that's technically in front of somebody else's house. So we can do it, that's not a problem. That's why they were stopped.
So we're not taking care of the bus stops at all? Oh, sure. Well, I guess I missed that. It seems to me that's our responsibility, you know. Okay.
What's that?
Do you want to put it on as an agenda item?
Yeah, we might have to talk about that.
Well, you talk to the town administrator. Talk to Doug.
Okay, all right, okay.
It can be done.
Thank you.
It's not a problem. Okay.
Archie?
Good evening.
Read.
All right, we've had a pretty busy month. 38 calls this month, 10 EMS calls, 2 brush fires, 1 NBC with injury, 3 NBCs, motor vehicle accidents without injury, 14 public assists. That's anywhere from checking our hydrants, checking the flow of the hydrants, and assisting the general public. 1 forklift fire, 2 unauthorized burns. And I want to say, if you guys want to burn, come to town hall, get a permit. I'll come out and look at it, or one of the firefighters will come out and look at it, and we'll sign it off, and you can burn. Let's not burn illegally. Okay, it's really easy, an easy process. It's no cost. So I'd like to have everyone come in and follow the rules on that. Thank you. 1 good intent. We had 1 body found at Stillwater's. I'm still trying to find out more about that information. And 1 unauthorized control burn. So on that, also I'm working with Palm Bay, the Type 6 brush truck. They're not going to give us 2 Trailblazers like we thought. Procurement will not do that with Palm Bay. So instead of $11,000, I request $15,000. They're going to give us $15,000 for that truck. It was kind of a, give me this or you get that. So we got $15,000 instead of $11,000. Now that should be coming very shortly. Working on Autoway with Palm Bay also. So that's one of the big things that Chief Hogan and I are in negotiation talking about. It's free. We just have to get with Palm Bay and get that started. We're in the process of doing that. I'm working on 3 more grants, 100%. 1 is for air packs, 1 is for a drone, and the other 1 is for communications for radios. The cost of radios are getting very expensive, so I'm going to try and get some more grants for that. And to date, we're at 278 calls. Any questions? Yes, sir.
The burn permit, is it required if you have a controlled burn such as a burn barrel?
Yes, sir. Anytime you burn in the town of Delaware, you need to have a burn permit and someone come check.
That's what I thought, I want to be sure everybody knew.
Yes, sir.
Where are we with the ladder truck?
The ladder truck went up for bid and auction. I haven't heard anything back. I don't know if Mr. Boyd has heard anything.
The auction ends on August 8th, so
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the 6th or the 8th, and I haven't had a chance to get with those, but yes, it's still out. And I'm going to resubmit it again, if not. The ladder truck, the old engine, and 1 of the older brush trucks is what's going to be on. We got to get rid of the fleet. Bring someone back to town. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Town clerk?
Wednesday, candidate qualifying starts, runs through 4:30 on the 22nd of August. Packets will be ready at 8:30 on Wednesday. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, we have no public comments, so we'll move on to public hearing. is the vacate request, resolution 06-2018. We read by title only.
Resolution of the Town of Malabar, Brevard County, Florida, vacating and abandoning a 50-foot wide unimproved right-of-way known as Wilson Lane adjacent to parcel 13 in section 3, township 29, range 37, within Malabar for a distance of 600 feet plus or minus, providing for conflict and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I'll open up the public meeting, and do we have any disclosures from council? Does anybody have any communication with the Wilsons or go see the site? Is the petitioner here? Could you please come up, state your name and address, and just kind of give a brief description of what you're trying to
All
do?
right, I'm Henry Lobson. I own both sides of that right away, okay? I have told it earlier in the planning and zoning board, et cetera, even though your gate on there's no gate on it or anything right now, I'm gonna put one on the south side of it where I abandoned, not where my property ends, but where the abandonment ends, all right, where the property joint. I'm gonna put a gate in there, but the road is absolutely grouped over. There's no way, you'd have to have a bulldozer and et cetera to ever get it open to get it through it, all right? There's no swales that have been completed or anything else back there. There's no ponds or anything back in that area, wasn't no work whatsoever. It's basically flat land, all right? And it joins my two properties, it separates my two properties. And I'm asking you to join it, to abandon it, so that I can join my two properties under one acreage of pasture my cows all over the whole thing, all right? And right now I'm being separated by an abandoned, by a never developed right of way, all right? And if there's any questions, I'll glad to answer.
You're using it for basically pasture land now,
I
right?
want to use it, no, it's not, it's fenced on both sides, all right?
No more than.
And I'm gonna have to fence it down so I can use pasture land, yes. My place, as long as I'm alive, I can't tell you what's gonna happen after I'm gone, but as long as I'm alive, there'll never be any development on it, period.
If I may, several years ago while I was on the Parks and Rec-
No, it's the questions for the applicant.
Okay, this is a comment on the history.
It has to be a direct question to the applicant. We have discussion later. This is the
Yeah,
applicant's.
this will be later then.
Could I ask, I wasn't sure if I understood. You don't have any plans on building on that?
Oh, no, as long as I'm alive, all right, as long as I'm alive, I can't tell you what's gonna happen after I'm gone, I understand that.
I was
But
just
as long as I'm alive, it'll always be cows, it'll be nothing else. That's the reason I bought that 5 acres back there, yeah, 5 acres back behind me, because, well, I had the money. But not only that, but there were 2 or 3 developers looking at it, considering, according to Teresa Flam, the Reaver, 2 or 3 developers looking at it, and I said, I don't want any houses back there, I'm just gonna buy it. Get the best price you can, and I'll write you a check, and that's exactly what happened, right?
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Please come up, state your name and address for the record.
Liz Ritter, 2860 Orange Avenue, Malabar, Florida. On the planning and zoning board, we checked, there's nobody that has any, everybody has access from another main road. We didn't see any wetlands or a pond or anything back there. The back side of it is to the Tom Eschenberg Park, so it's not like it'd ever be a through road. And he seems to be willing to comply with anything that you'd like to request. So that's why we go with things. There's no utilities to the region.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Do you have any staff comments?
They're all in the package.
Okay. All right. I'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, we're in, several years ago, the Parks and Recreation Board looked at that particular stretch of land because we were trying to find a campground for the Boy Scouts. This was back before the Eschenberg Park was developed to what it is now. But once we began developing that, we found that we had access to that entire 17 acres through what is now known as the Thomas Eschenberg Memorial Park. We didn't need to go through there, and it's a pretty rough area to try to, as he said, create a road to go in there. And so the Parks and Rec Board at that time chose not to try to access through there and to leave it just as it was. And that would have been about the only reason to continue that road down there, because it really goes from Hall Road into nothing and ends up at the 17 acres owned by the town. And we have other access to that 17 acres, so it's not needed. And it would be a benefit to the individual who owns adjacent property to abandon this.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this. One of my first thoughts is, since I was on planning and zoning, when we brought something to council, and then council kind of turned it away, you felt like all the hard work you did in planning and zoning wasn't appreciated. So I try to look at what planning and zoning says before I make my decisions, because I think they've already done the research. Problem is, I've got another feeling, and my feeling is, I can't give away town property to an individual. I'm giving away town-owned property, that right-of-way. And when somebody says it'll never be needed for anything else, well, if for some reason 25, 30, 40 years ago will be gone, we need that for drainage, we don't have permission to go on there anymore because we just gave away that right-of-way. We gave away that ability to build a road. We gave away that ability to put drainage through. And we did that for the value of a small amount of tax revenue on that particular right-of-way. And I've always had the feeling that unless somebody can change my mind, we can't just give away taxpayers' land. This is owned by the people who pay taxes to the town of Malahar. That's my comment.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say, I understand your concern, and I do share that concern also. But I went and looked at the property, and I think most of us probably did, you know, more than just a schematic. And I could not see where we would pose any future drainage problem insofar as Wilson Lane itself has the drain out towards Hall Road and then down to the canal. And so, giving up that bit of easement, I don't think it would ever hurt us. I was a little bit worrisome about, well, what is the big concern about two pieces of property not joining, okay? And I wanted to know what he was going to do with it. I honestly think that whereas we need to protect the town's property and our town, we're also here to serve our residents and our landowners. And I looked at it hard and I couldn't see any problem doing this. So I'm saying I'm for it.
Go ahead.
I was going to, I went to the planning and zoning meeting and I got information after planning and zoning one because I got there late, but Deneen, she explained where it was located, and yeah, I checked. I've been over to the Eschenberg Park and looked at. I actually know the Eschenberg Park saturates at times of rain. I mean, you can't even enjoy the Eschenberg Park during rainy times because it's full of water. So I know that there could be a future problem with drainage. For grazing animals right now, it doesn't seem like it would be a problem. So I asked the attorney out in the parking lot just about if we could put some sort of, if we could have it back, if we needed stormwater drainage or something in the future, because that has happened in the past. We gave away Finn's Lane and now we could use that for stormwater. So there is a potential, possible problem, but is there something, I was actually going to ask if we could just put it on the shelf and think about it, but is there something where we could help the resident be allowed to use the property without owning the property, so that after his lifetime, we could still have the possibility of using, because we don't have our, we definitely don't have our stormwater drainage solution for our town yet. And we definitely have problems with people in other, yeah, I think that you were already taking care of it. I think that you're like a
I
very,
hear what you're saying too, and I know the reason.
yeah.
Yeah, I know the reason, because you walked the distance
Although
for
you can't,
drainage.
you
So
can't.
I understand that this property owner is very sensible with his land use, but future possible multiple property owners may not be so generous. And and I have some people in my district that are really still struggling with their properties. And there's actually solutions in the books, but unless we follow through with those solutions, people get hurt, so.
I got you just made a statement. What right of way did Malabar give away that hurt our stormwater?
Finn's,
What right of way?
Finn's Lane.
Right.
Can I?
And this is still, go ahead.
Well,
Well, we'll get the lawyer first.
I went down Saturday and looked at that property, got out and walked on it and all. Most of the drainage from that area is from west to east. That's a north-south piece of property. I don't see where the drainage would be affected in, how do you say it? Adversely affected, that's the word. And then we've always got the problem, or the possibility of eminent domain years from now, which would be fortified by the fact that the property was given to the individual. Meanwhile, we've got proof positive that we are helping an individual member of this community develop his activity in the community in a rural way. You know, we advertise ourselves as rural living at its best, and that's part of it.
Go ahead.
When we're talking about vacating a platted driveway, the first thing we need to understand is that the right-of-ways are held by the town in trust for the public. They don't technically own it like they own a piece of property. So when we're talking about vacating platted right-of-ways, the relevant consideration is whether or not there's a public need or use for this property any further. Not the fact that it's benefiting an individual, that's just, it's not relevant, and you cannot vacate to benefit a private individual. So you must make a determination as to whether or not there's any further public need for this piece of property in making your determination.
Any other discussion? I'm trying to figure out the length of the feet. It isn't,
It's 600, plus or minus.
how much?
600.
600 feet. Right, any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call.
Okay. The motion on this was to approve the vacate request and adopt resolution 06-2018 as presented.
Correct.
Okay. Roll call, Councilmember Fall,
Nay.
Councilmember Mahoney,
Nay.
Councilmember Rivet,
Aye.
Councilmember Corn,
All right.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Motion carried 3-2.
Thank you very much.
You get a recorded copy of that resolution.
All right, we'll move on to unfinished business. So we're going to go down to McCain Lane, the southern portion variance granted, accept current terms. There are three options for this. Option one is to approve the current access off McCain Lane to develop lot 808. So that's as is presented. So I think that's 25 feet that's already been done. And let them, the people on the east side had their driveway going one way. We're going to allow a driveway to go to the west. The second is, option is the agreement that our town lawyer wrote. And then the third option is follow the town's ordinances and improve the lot 808 road, all of it. So those are the three options. So is the applicant here? Please come up, state your name and address.
Joe Bernier, 2290 McBain Lane, Manitowoc, Florida.
Do you want to say why you're doing this?
Why?
Yeah.
That property, all of that property is up for sale. We had a
You
potential
need to
buyer.
address the council, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had a potential buyer that wanted to build on that lot that doesn't have access to the road yet. And I guess when they asked, they came up with the fact that they really didn't know if it could be accessed as the road is now, or if they had to put a road all the way through. So they're waiting to hear, and that determines whether our property sells.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question. Do you have any knowledge of any stormwater problems off of that area?
I'm not 100% sure I know what stormwater problems are. Does it get wet in there? Yes, but so does all the other 8.5 acres of my property.
Does it impede travel? Does it cause it hard, does it make it so that it's hard to travel to any of the residence places? Like those?
She's the last one.
Yeah, so you're the last one and you have no
Yeah.
problem getting
The only problem I see, to be honest with you, a couple of days ago, somebody took out, the guy that put in that little section of road, took out his mailbox because he couldn't turn around.
Okay.
But a lot of the dead-end streets are like that here. And I guess if somebody wanted to build there, that would give them just a little bit more room to turn around. Now, it's kind of comical when it's anybody pulling a trailer or anything.
Right.
But when it's not comical, and I've seen it happen, is when the fire truck comes down and it has problems turning around.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to discuss this first before we entertain a motion. Now we can talk about the three options. And then after the discussion, we'll entertain a motion for one of the three options. Does anybody want to start? I'll start. Presently, it's working fine. There's a driveway to the east, and there's a driveway to the east, and they want to put a driveway to the west. So that option one is just leave it as is. The people already went through the agreement process and everything back. It's in the packet, what year that was. So that's already been done. The second option is to do the agreement. The words of what the lawyer said is, I can't remember everything, but whatever the agreement is. And then the third option is to make them pay, or not pay, but improve the road all the way to the end. So, I'm in favor just as is, and just have it go to the east, go to the west.
What is as is?
Whether you move the dead end, 20 feet into the property or 600 feet into the property, it really
The law
doesn't
changed
matter.
since this was done in 2005.
What's that?
The town ordinances have changed since this was done in 2005. I'll be glad to describe all of that to you when the time comes.
Well, we're in the discussion, so.
Okay. In 2005, the individual on the one side to put a driveway in from the corner of his property, was not required at that time to do any more than that at any time in the future. Now, that's all he was ever required to do. Even if somebody beyond him wanted to build, he didn't have to do that road. They would have to come down and build a road beside his property too. Now, in 2008, a friend of mine built some property where he got a variance to cut short so that his driveway could go in just like this was. But he was also required at that time to agree to build a road along the remaining portion of his property if someone beyond him wanted to build or to have access to that. Okay, in 2005, that wasn't the requirement. 2008, and since then, has been the requirement. If the people who are now petitioning, and I get the numbers, 859, 805, whatever, the people who want it now, they're going to have to agree to eventually put their portion of the road in along the entire length of their property on that road. Now, we may offer them the opportunity to access the property temporarily, just like the people across the street from them, but we cannot give them an exemption from ever, like it was done to the neighbor in 2005. In fact, that ought to be changed, because I believe a couple of years ago, we discussed, and I don't know what we ever come up with for decision, we discussed the fact that we would never offer a shortfall on this, that we would always require that the entire length along the property be developed as a road, no matter what. Now, I'm not sure that passed. I know we talked about it as a council at that time. But right now, we've got to protect the people who own the property beyond this property in the future.
I agree. And can you,
Yeah.
would the property owners across the street would also have to?
They're not required to.
You can now?
No.
No.
The law didn't require them
All right,
to.
okay.
We used to have a variance procedure in the road ordinance that allowed people to build the short road because of certain conditions, okay? And several years ago, we amended the road ordinance and pulled it out. So now, the only way to obtain a development permit to build a house is you gotta build a whole road. That's the way it sits right now. We used to have the variance procedure, we don't have it anymore. So, Debbie and I were looking at this and we're like, the only one who are gonna make this decision is you guys. We're not gonna go out on a limb and do anything here. The reason why the agreement is there is to protect the town in case that road needs to be built in the future. Because if you just waive it without anything else, then whoever owns that property now, beyond that current terminus, they won't have to build. They won't have to pay for it. It's the guy downstream who wants to now connect up will have to pay. So, and again, what we see on this map and in this area, this road probably can't be built, but that's why those provisions are in the agreement to cover the town when someone says, hey, you did it for him. Oh yes, but we did it, but they gave us a study, they showed that this is wetlands, you know, they comply with all these things. The other alternative is go back to where we were and allow variances. If we still had the variance procedure in place, this would probably be a much easier discussion for us, okay? But now it's pulled out. And now we've got to require people to build an 800-foot road when 600 of it may be completely unbuildable for whatever reason. And I suggest that if that were the case, and we denied a building permit because we said build that road, they gotta mitigate 3 to 1, 2 to 1, whatever it is, we could be in another Byrd-Harris Act, an inordinate burden upon somebody's property by requiring them to build a road, which in fact turns out to be could be worth more because of mitigation than the property they're trying to access. So that's why the agreement's there.
All right, so your agreement where it says, in consideration of the waiver, the owner agrees at a future date if this ever.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
So that's why the agreement.
That's exactly it. See, my chair's Steve.
In other words, you're saying the agreement says that
Dan.
ultimately they got to go.
Dan?
Not necessarily right now, but ultimately.
Not necessarily, maybe. It's maybe, it just depends. I mean, they won't have to right now, but if the downstream owner somehow is able to convince St. John's that this road can go through and mitigation happens and all that stuff, they'll have to contribute to their portion of the right-of-way going to the downstream neighbors.
That I can agree with. With those conditions.
Danny?
Yes. First off, I was under the understanding the reason we granted this variance to Clinton was because it was wetlands beyond that point.
That was years ago.
Years ago,
And I don't think
okay.
the conditions changed.
And conditions have changed. Okay, all right. They hadn't changed on my property. You know, what I'm seeing though is, I'm afraid I have to go with number one, because even to require this new landowner to possibly be financially responsible for that road in the future, what do we do about Clinton? Do we just give him a free ride and put an inordinate burden on the new landowner? You know, that doesn't seem right to me either.
You know, my suggestion, you all do what you want to do, you need to think about bringing back the variance procedure. You really do. And, you know, maybe we could tighten it up a little bit. I mean, we had it, I think we explained it at one time when we first did, it was the road to nowhere. Okay, I mean, you can't build a road through water. I mean, I guess you could if you paid enough mitigation money to St. John's or wherever, but, you know, that's the reason why it was there originally, and we pulled it out. Do what you want to do with this one, but also think about bringing back that procedure to accommodate these situations.
Go ahead.
I think the reason that variance procedure was removed was because it was used. You know, it's hard to say no to people coming and asking for something. I can't build my house if I don't get that. So I think what you suggested, Carl, is the correct answer. However, we've got this case in front of us now, and I think that the most reasonable resolution is that we allow people to build with 25 feet of right-of-way, but again, with the agreement that if the further land that the landowners beyond their property need to build, it would be responsible for essentially what the existing ordinance says they're responsible for in terms of, providing.
If you look at it the other way, where people have to put in a road, and they're the last house on the road, and then the people between, and then now it's developed because, you know, you paid for the road, and then now it's easy access for the other lot owners. They don't have to give the guy who put the road in any money. So if you get.
Don't they have to?
No, they don't.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they
Not on
do.
a
We've talked about
small
this.
No,
Yes, they do.
they have to. It's,
Yeah, I know two people personally that has never received a penny.
That's right.
There's one in Greg Reinhardt out on out west.
But isn't the rule that you're supposed to?
Well,
If you build that road,
my
then
point
they come.
is,
Now.
they never got their money. So
You paid for the
this is
road
the
along
other
your
way.
property, but not along somebody else's.
no.
I got my money.
I'm not aware of it.
I'm not.
We have a road reimbursement
Mr.
ordinance.
Chair, I'm not aware that we keep track on every road that's improved and every lot that benefits because of that improvement. And the code is very clear about the language when someone wants to pull a permit to develop that lot that trips those certain parcels and notifies them, notifies the building department how much is due, pay back to the town. We keep $50 or 1% of whatever that payback is for the administrative overhead and the rest goes to the road builder. Even if the road builder has moved on and sold and moved, if they provide us forwarding information, we forward that money. There are lots that haven't been developed yet, that haven't tripped the threshold to pay that payback. But I'm not aware of any that have developed and gotten a free pass. If the house was there before the road was improved, their grandfather did. If their house fronts another street, like corner lots, they get a pass.
All right, let's move on back here. So, any further discussion?
Well,
Okay, I have a question, just, so, of the three different, I got confused when you talked, Carl, but, the agreement, the right-of-way improvement reimbursement agreement for this is only one of the three, or is any of the three that we choose?
Option two.
Just that one frontage.
You guys, that's one
Yeah.
of three options you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just leave it as is. Do the development.
Number one is
Do
that
the
they
drainage.
just leave it
So
alone.
number one, leave it alone, they can still build, but the
They don't
town
own
is
any.
They will
And
not be
the town is
responsible for
not
any further.
improvement, and the town is not legally which is the safest way for us to go?
I think Carl's recommending item 2, if
Yeah.
he wrote.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It prevents the next guy coming and says, hey, you did it for him.
That's what I'm.
well
Okay,
then,
but we
I
have
think
this.
we need to be responsible to do number two then.
I also.
Can I ask one thing though?
Or the town could be responsible, saying you can improve the whole road.
Well,
That's what our ordinance
that's really heavy.
Well, I'm just saying, that's the,
And
that's the
that's
Malabar responsible.
Well, that's the total responsible, but if the land is already swampy,
I agree. See, now you're making a judgment call.
Again, if I believe that there was some reasonable probability that this road would ever be built out beyond, I would just say follow the ordinance. You know, you gotta improve the road, but there's a pretty high probability that it never will be built, which is why I think it makes sense to, you know, consider a special arrangement. And again, I think that what Mr. Bowman has suggested covers all bases.
Go ahead.
I'm going back to what Dr. Irvin said a few moments ago, in explaining that we can give them limited access now with the idea that if someone wants to build down the ways. Now, the example that I'm using for 2008, and I'm not going to call names now, but that road would also go into some pretty wet property and all, and in 10 years, nobody has even considered building beyond him, so he's not had to do that. But if somebody were to, he'd have to develop the road along beside his property, and I think that's the same kind of requirement we need to keep up with. But the only thing we can do tonight is to comply with the current ordinance, whatever that is.
Build the road.
Build it all the way.
That's the current ordinance.
Or we can consider at a later meeting changing that ordinance, and the petitioner can come back at that time.
I'm suggesting to the council that if it does require this to be built, and it cannot be, they can never get a permit to do their property, which I think gives us a Bert Harris claim.
Yep.
Clearly. Okay? I'm trying to create a waiver here that doesn't exist, but to keep us out of litigation.
And we would have to do that on a different subject, right? Specifically to change the ordinance as it is.
For the next one, yes. Consider that for the next
Well,
one.
I think right now what Carl's proposing makes a lot of sense. First off, we're saying, well, it doesn't matter because the road's never gonna go anywhere. Well, then sign this and it doesn't matter because the road's never gonna go anywhere, they'll never have to build it. But however, that's what I keep saying, in history, just like the one we just did on vacating a road, we don't know what's gonna happen 30 years from now. We don't know what's gonna happen 50 years from now. And then we're held to it. And then we're building the road. So I think what Carl came up with sounds like the workable option in this. Do I make a motion that we accept the option 2?
I'll second that.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine, that's Steve.
I still have some
Nobody
discussion.
had a motion.
Okay, sorry.
I still have discussion.
We still got discussion.
Okay, good. So if we go with what Carl says, okay, and then from somewhere in the future, somebody wants to build out that road, this property owner is going to be responsible for the cost of that property that's adjacent to his property, I mean, that road that's adjacent to his property, correct? Okay? But now, and you're telling me he's going, or she is going to be responsible for 100% of the cost of that road? And Clem's just going to get a walk. And what I'm trying to say is that,
Edge of his property.
that the fair thing is not to tell that property owner that they've got to cover 100% of that road that may be built, that we think will never be built.
Two wrongs.
I'm afraid that we granted the variance, we have some responsibility for that. What's that, Debbie?
But if you did something wrong in the past, doesn't mean you do it wrong again.
Yeah.
Are we talking about,
Debbie has it then.
Okay.
The
Debbie.
road improvement code requires you to pay back the linear frontage of your lot. So if it costs $10,000 to build the road, that 25 feet, you cut that in half for each side, and then you determine your per linear footage for your payback.
Okay.
So Mr. K
Yes.
gets a walk because he was granted a variance, and that condition was not written in the order.
Okay.
The property owner of parcel 808 is only responsible for the linear frontage on the remaining 175 feet of frontage. The guy at the end that's building the road, it's going to be his burden to cover that difference.
All right, I'm okay with that. Yes.
are
Thank you.
we talking about the full width or half the width? Because we
Half
already have.
half the width.
Sounds gonna have to.
But we want to be sure that we say it out loud.
The road would be improved 50 feet wide, but each property owner on the east side and the west side is only responsible for the 25.
Thank you. That's their side. All right, I feel much better.
I want to be sure we said that out loud.
All right, we'll go back to the motion. Say it again.
We make a motion that we accept Carl's version.
Can we go over that one more time?
You get a second?
Yes.
Steve. Okay, now, any further discussion on option 2? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried, 5-0. Thank you.
Yeah, that was mine.
All right, I see Deputy Sewer. Would you like to come up now?
But if anybody ever wants to
Give a
go
report.
past you, they're gonna hand you a bill for the road.
Sorry, I was late.
Your response.
The new
Mayor?
To the end of the property.
Please, quiet.
What I'm about to go over is for June. I'll go over the highlights. These are emailed to Mr. Hoyt and you guys if you want to take a look at the specific numbers. We responded to 9 business alarms in Malvern. There were 10 crashes, 1 burglary. We just seems a little unusual. You all don't usually have this number, but we responded to 13 disturbances in the town. Reckless driving, 7 complaints. Suspicious person, 7. Suspicious vehicle, 8. There were 2 thefts. We conducted 10 traffic enforcement details with 7 traffic stops. And that is all I have. Yes, sir. Do you all have any questions?
Were those disturbances all related to a particular area, or was it townwide?
I'd have to go pull them individually, but to get exact addresses, I don't know the answer to that. They could be, but usually they're not.
Any other questions?
And I am aware, I did notice, I believe you guys have an issue out of one of the parks. There's a building that keeps getting broken into and the supplies keep getting stolen out of it. Maybe?
The trailhead?
Is that the trailhead restaurant?
The trailhead?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. The storage building behind the new bathroom at Sandhill Trailhead was broken into about 2 weekends ago, and it was broken in again last Friday night. Why, I don't know, there's nothing in there. There's probably 50 rolls of toilet paper in the trunk. And the interesting thing, the first time it was broken into, the lock was unlocked and hanging open. So, no answer to it. Subsequently, we put up cameras, a security light, and are changing the locking system on the doors.
We're aware of it. We're trying to help you all solve that problem. Just want to let you know, I don't know if it's homeless people who might be living in the area. I don't know if it's someone who's just found out they can steal stuff out of it. I had only heard that there was toilet paper in it, so we didn't get, and just supplies, cleaning supplies and things like that for the bathrooms, but.
I think just basically toilet paper.
Right.
There's a broom. All of those are left there.
Any questions?
A comment.
Go ahead.
Some meetings ago, I complained that we weren't getting adequate coverage in the town, and I keep watching, and yes, we are now. I see your patrol cars quite often. They're not right around town. In several areas of the town. Now, I don't get over into Brook Hollow, but I'm sure they're over there too. And anywhere in the area where I live, off Weber, Corey, Marie, Country Cove, we're getting good coverage. I will say that because I live on Weber Road, right dead in the middle of it. This morning, the average speed on that road had to have been 75 miles an hour. If a guy was pulling a boat trailer, it was probably 68. I mean, people are flying that road.
Yep.
And when I say get more conscientious there, I'm putting myself at risk too, because I don't always drive 35 either. It's kind of hard. The only time I can drive 35 is to set my cruise control at 35. It's hard to stay there, but people have been flying over the road.
As the roads get more and more improved, shall we say, paved, widened, the speeds go up. I mean, we've had, they put in the St. John's Heritage Parkway, and everyone thought it was going to be a wonderful road. We've had 80s and 90s on St. John's Heritage Parkway. Because it's 2 lanes, there's absolutely nothing out there, people just fly with, large pull-off areas and improved on both sides, so,
I'm going to guess the same thing is true on Corey. I don't live on Corey, but it's a 3-mile long straight racetrack.
It's my experience when we go out there and we start stopping people, it's the residents who live there. Everybody thinks that it's somebody else speeding through the neighborhood. Well, 90% of the traffic in that neighborhood is the people that live in the neighborhood. And so we constantly, we try to, Weber and Corey, we always get complaints about. So we're always out there as much as we can. So. Well, I take that back. The other highly complained road is Malboro Road, but right after that is Corey and Weber.
The crime that was on an increase in the area, I've heard that the same thing's happening in Valkyria. Do you know about that? Do you do that area?
Yes, we did have, it seems to have, it's what I'm looking for, slowed down or mitigated, but what's become a popular tactic among people who want to burglarize homes is they will pull up to a home, they'll ring the doorbell. If someone comes to the door, they'll act like, oh, I'm lost, I'm looking for my friend, et cetera, and then they'll just leave. But in general, what they're looking for is no one answers the door. Someone will go around behind the house. In general, the method of operation, MO, is throw something they find in the area, a large brick, a rock, through a sliding glass door. They usually proceed quickly to the master bedrooms, looking for whatever valuable in there they can find, guns, jewelry, whatever else. We had an organized group from Central Florida and South Florida going through, and everyone was calling them the pillowcase bandits, because what they would do is take a pillowcase off one of the pillows in the bedroom, put the property in it, and they were out the door. So I, again, will tell everyone here, probably in about 3 or 4 of those cases, we had neighbors who saw something. They saw the vehicle acting suspiciously, they didn't recognize the people, and if I had a nickel for everybody who said, well, we don't want to call you guys because we know you're busy and we don't want to bother you. Well, the funny part about that is they're actually watching a crime occur, and there's probably 3 deputies at the racetrack drinking coffee together going over reports that could have been in that neighborhood in a minute or 2. So I just always encourage everybody, if you know, it's almost like the thing, it's a great saying that came out of New York, especially when we had all the terrorism stuff going on, see something, say something. If it looks suspicious to you, it's probably something going on that should be called in. We had one person completely watch it, you know, saw the car, saw him go around the house, a couple minutes later, looked back out, didn't see the car anymore. Then the next thing you know, the neighborhood's flooded with deputies, and they were like, oh, what happened? Oh, you know, yeah, sorry, I didn't call, I didn't want to bother you guys. So, you know, if I could just encourage everyone in the room, you got a good crowd tonight, and you're always out talking to the residents of the community. If they see something suspicious, please call us. It's, you know, I can't tell you that we're gonna have a deputy there in 30 seconds. I can't, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 5 minutes, but it could also be an opportunity where we can prevent a crime from occurring. And that's a stat I can never come in here and share with you guys. I mean, I've been in this job long enough. How many times does a deputy drive down your street and stop a crime? You never know. So, but there's no way to qualify that number. So please call us. You know, it's if you see something, call us. We're not that busy. We're busy, but we're not that busy. And we will try to keep an eye on that shed out there. It's just out in the middle of nowhere. So.
Thank you for your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do y'all have anything else later on you want me to stay for or no?
No.
No? Okay. Thanks.
All right, move on to discussion. I know we have workshops coming up, but what I wanted was a top-level discussion on the budget. And Debbie, I was hoping that you could say that it pretty much equals what we did last year.
It's actually less.
Okay, go ahead.
The budget is less. You might want Matt to give you the overview because he did the final numbers before we printed it. Maybe he could come to the podium.
Go ahead.
Our overall budget is actually going down a little bit this year. Last year we focused in on some of the big projects you've been seeing around and used some of our reserves to cover those expenses. And so we reduce those expenditures. Some of the main areas you probably want to look at is streets and roads. We have under our repairs and maintenance line, we bumped that up to $115,000 up from $83,000 the year prior. We also have the new public works building in there, and I've increased the equipment replacement plan that we've discussed several times, put some money away for the future. And then stormwater, we have some increased revenues there that we've put into the maintenance programs. So,
Was there any major new sources of income from last year?
no, nothing significant. Minor incremental changes moving up.
And then the expenditures was the fire truck and...
Yeah, we have the great all expense coming in, so that'll be a new payment that's built into here. And that's pretty much it.
Any discussion? Any questions?
Yeah, it looks like the biggest change is the difference in use of reserve funds.
Right, that's our biggest change.
Using significantly less.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I would like to see that zero. Okay, that's.
I've noticed this year that particularly the fire department, but others, we've gotten a lot of grant money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Is this reflected in the fact that our budget is less? Because everybody commended on that,
yeah.
Overtime.
It really helps accomplish some of the things that we would like to see as far as improvements. Grants, we generally focus on like radios. You know, he's got a bunch of radios that need to be replaced. It's very tough to catch up on that maintenance program. It was kind of put off for other priorities, and so if we can get a grant and catch back up, that's great.
I have two questions. One is, it seems like there's a lot more houses coming in. Is that helping our revenue?
Yeah, it is. You'll notice that's under the permits, fees, and special assessments under building permits. We came in about 12,000 over already this year, so we kind of expanded on that.
Yeah, so,
Good.
so the only new building though that would be reflected in this year's revenue numbers were the ones that were completed in the prior fiscal year, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
And the second question is, for projected, we have this new finance company that are we still, so have we seen what is going to exactly improve there?
I went pretty conservative on this and did not include a significant increase for our investment income in that line item.
Okay.
We're kind of putting together investments now and the account's open and working to see what we're going to get and project those numbers. I'd rather not put down that we're going to make a ton of money and then something happens that we didn't
Right.
foresee or whatnot.
They pretty much have a consistency though, the company itself.
We created a hypothetical portfolio to present to you guys, and that's kind of our goal, what we're building off of. But I'm also looking at cash flows too. I may not be able to be fully invested in that portfolio the entire year. So until I've got at least a year under the belt, I don't want to over project and set us up for failure.
Thank you.
Any more questions for you?
Yeah. Now, we're basing this on the 2.1 millage? Is that what we're doing?
The maximum,
Yes.
Which is 2.1.
1,582.
There's just barely over 2.09 that we had.
Right. All right, thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Any other discussion about this topic? We're going to talk about it at the workshop. I just want to get an introduction. All right, no public comments, and we'll move on to reports. Lori?
The only report that I'd really like us to start considering is a more complete stormwater maintenance overview. I just think that we should look at the stormwater problems and just see if there's some things that can be basic maintenance. We got a report from Public Works now, and we still have the areas that need to be mowed and things like that, but I think that we should have a regular maintenance of water flow done. So that's the thing that I just still hear a lot of residents wanting those things done, stormwater. Thank you.
Steve?
Again, the only one thing I want to do is say, again, great job to Drew and all of the Trails and Greenways folks that worked on the presentation. I was very impressed. Great job.
I asked Doug, where are we on our ditch mowing?
Okay. We received a email from Palm Bay today. They expect to be over here either this week or first part of next week for the demonstration. Assuming it works as planned and works as we saw it working in Palm Bay, we'll move ahead with that. The problem with the flail mowers that we have now is when we mow the grass, it drops down in and plugs up the bottom of the ditch. This actually cleans up the bottom of the ditch. We have an area over on Corey Road that's sort of centrally located. As soon as we have a firm date, council, and we'll also post it on our website, because I'd like as many people to see this in action as possible. I was extremely impressed, Kurt, and I think Councilman Dan also was over there, and I think between the two of us, we thought it was really a valuable piece of equipment and would make a significant difference in the town, not on the big culverts or ditches, but on the side roads where there's ditches that are 2 to 3 feet deep and a couple feet wide. So, as I say, we expect that either later in the week or first part of next week.
Oops, I'm sorry. You can leave, I forgot. I'm sorry. I just looked at it and I said, oh. Thank you, Carl.
All right.
Well, I have to give you Steve, I thought the presentation by the Trails and Greenways Committee was awesome. They did a great job. I didn't hear one negative thing from our 2 state reps that were here to just visit our town and make their assessment. And I got my first chance of kayaking with them because we went down Turkey Creek all the way to the dam. And those manatees are pretty big. I'm glad I didn't see an alligator. But, and I'd also like to thank my wife at the Trails and Greenways Committee meeting that we went to prior to this visit. They were concerned about the deteriorating sign we had for the Marine Trail today. So I pulled them down and repaired them the best I could, and she did all the paintwork, and they look awesome. So now she's bugging me, won't to repaint all the signs. So we'll try to get some.
She's an expert.
Yeah. And as per my earlier question about the benches for students, buses, I think maybe we need to relook our attitude about mowing the right of ways. You know, I mean, I try to keep the front of my property done, and even the property next to me that's undeveloped, I mow theirs too, because I want everybody, when you come up to my house,
That's right.
look good. But there's a section of Vance Road right when you turn off a quarry that is this high, you know, and it's a bad reflection on our town, you know. So we need to work on that.
Go ahead.
Okay. And I'd agree with him because at one point it was tasked to Public Works to mow the right of ways. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, but council said stop mowing the right of ways, and consequently, we have newer, better equipment now, we're able to do it faster, and I agree that the town looks very shabby without the right of ways being mowed. Now, in many cases, our citizens are mowing their own right of ways, and their areas look good, but I would say at least 50% of the town could use some mowing, so I would ask that council rethink that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of right-of-way that's in front of undeveloped property.
Right.
And so it's never going to get mowed unless we do it.
Exactly.
So.
And,
Dick?
Yeah, I have 2 items, but I want to follow up first on what Danny was saying, because I'm on front of mine and the property across the street. I'm down almost to the driveway of my neighbor too. But I've had some people in the area, you know, the area where I live, the ditches are pretty deep. I mean, I can stand at the bottom of that ditch, it'll be up to here, I mean. And they're saying, we can't get down in there and clean that out. So I worked with Felix, probably he shouldn't even say this. He and I got out there one day, a couple of weeks ago, and he got some of the areas where I couldn't get in front of my house or the neighbor's home. We got the whole area cleaned up because then I mowed the rest of it, so he wouldn't have to. With my mower, you know, that was kind of wanting some time that way. And we need to work together with the homeowners to keep the areas in front of their houses clear and safe. Because Doug, you've been out there with me when we had to pull, I won't call his name, the gentleman down the road from me out of the ditch. Because he tried to get down in there with his mower, and it was like at a 45, and he was at the other 45, trying to get off of his mower. But anyhow, I mentioned to Doug, a lot of those stormwater problems we're having here on the west side, in my district, is coming with water off of I-95, because they put those 11 culverts under there. And I suggested that we approach DOT about putting a ditch parallel to 95 to catch all of that water, take it up to Tillman Canal or somewhere else where it can access into the river. They haven't done that, but it would seem to me pretty reasonable to ask them to put such a ditch along their right of way and just catch the water before it gets to my house or the people at the west end of Addison Hall. It can be controlled if they're willing to control it. I wish the attorney was still here, because he and I had a conversation today on something I've been getting a lot of calls about, and that is gunfires. Dr. Arlen and his wife were sitting out in their yard the other day, and bullets went by them. They could hear them, could see where they were landing, where they were hitting. I had a bullet nearly hit me in my pasture one day last week. We were from the old Atlantic Ridge Farms area, are out there shooting, and the bullets are coming onto my property. I thought there was a law that said in an area zoned residential, you cannot fire a firearm, but that's not the law. The law says in an area zoned residential where the density is a house on 1,000 or less, on an acre or less. Like I've got one house on 3 acres, so it doesn't apply. But what the attorney was telling me is what does apply is somebody fires a firearm, discharges a firearm. If the projectile from that bullet goes across their property line, it's trespassed by some fancy word he used. That's illegal, that's a felony. And I don't know anybody that can shoot a firearm and stay on their same property. Now, I've got 3 acres, but I can take my little handgun and I'll shoot my property lines. So what we need to do to tell the people who are just complaining to one another about this is to call the sheriff. Pay attention to the details. Where is the bullet coming from? Where is it going? Where did it cross the property line? That's the only way the sheriff can do any kind of prosecution. But they are willing to do so. And we've got too many people firing firearms now. I've got livestock that could die. The idiots that are out in the swamp behind me shooting guns. Now, I have a gun, and I have shot it on my property to kill a rattlesnake. That's the only time I shot a gun. I know, poor rattlesnake, he had a family.
I believe we already have an ordinance.
No, the town cannot have any ordinance dealing with firearms.
We don't, I thought we had one that
No,
you
we
could not shoot recreational.
No.
No, they're
The laws that say
No, that's
that.
state.
That's
The state is the only one that has the authority to regulate any firearm, and that is their regulation.
Stay on
We
your
used to
property.
have firearm regulation ordinances, but they don't exist anymore. The state is taking all of that away from the municipalities. Miami couldn't come up with a law saying, or Orlando, saying you can't shoot a gun. They don't have that authority. We don't have that authority.
Anything else?
No.
I'd like to, thank all the people that have fixed all the town signs and trail and greenway signs. Coming in off of Malabar Road, it was really bright. I could see the blue and gray, and, so I could tell, you got attention. So the 2 signs coming into Malabar and trail and greenways. Next Monday night is the budget workshop, so you guys got budget homework this week to see if you should put money in the reserves. Or wherever, if you can do that, and, I think it all balanced right now at the maximum, so we have a good start. Go ahead.
Well, like what Matt was pointing out, the budget actually is set up to put money into reserves in both 541 and 522 for your vehicle replacement fund. So that is going into reserves.
Right. Anything else? Right. Meeting adjourned.
Jason.